welcome this morning Maxine Crump, who is in town from Baton Rouge. She is putting on a pilot program here for the YWCA. It's called Dialogue on Race, which I was a part of last night for night number 1. Some eye-opening things happened, Maxine. Is that part of the goal?
Yes, it is. Erin, hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us so early this morning. It's a small group. It's about 15 people. This program is eventually going to come to Shreveport, for anyone who's interested. Right now, we're kind of guinea pigs. You've been doing it in Baton Rouge, though. What is the mission? What's the goal?
It's a bold mission. It's the elimination of racism. And I know when I say that, people who have never been through a dialogue think, well, that's never going to happen, and which is one of the things that often comes up in dialogue, that people think we cannot end racism. But that's because of how they define it. They define it as racial prejudice. People who are mean and nasty and hateful, which is not what it is. It's a system that was constructed in our country, and anything that was constructed can be dismantled. We ended racism in the mid-20th century as a legal operation. But just because something is illegal doesn't mean we don't do it. So it has continued to operate, and really there's kind of no reason why it wouldn't, since we did not end using race as categories, and a lot of things didn't change except that it's illegal. So illegal means if you think you've been discriminated against on the basis of color, you have a right to sue.
There are those of us, and I was one, and I talked about this yesterday morning. I went into this a little bit nervous because as a white person, you're afraid that you may say something that you don't really realize will be perceived as racist. This is a forum where there's no judgment. You can say what you want. Accurate?
Accurate. It's a space, we create a structured conversation, a facilitated conversation backed by factual material. And everyone in there is focused on how our system operates around people's color, not how people feel about each other. And people are safe in there to be open and honest. And it was shown so well last night. People said things I don't think they thought they were going to say. At first, I could tell that people were a little timid, and they said things that had assumptions in it. And when they saw that they could say what they really felt and thought and experienced, and that there was no judgment, I would see people looking at me, waiting to see their usual responses they hear from people when they say those things. And there was just acceptance. We are open to hearing whatever you think and feel, because the way we structure it, you will get to something meaningful.
Now
you had just thrown out there and left.
You had mentioned, actually, Erin said in the beginning of your conversation, there were eye-opening moments. What were the ones, and Erin and you can both comment on this, what were the eye-opening moments already that Erin's talking about, and what is your long-term goal as far as creating eye-opening moments for, I would think, people of both races?
Well, there were 2 eye-opening moments that stand out. There were lots, but there were 2 I'll mention. One was, it seemed we put all of our we present the opening, everything is a question. And the question is not for an answer, it's to be discussed. And I could sense that people thought that they were given an answer and that I was going to say yay or nay to the answer. And they would wait for me to respond, and I would just say next. Because what we asked them is, tell me what was your earliest experience of what racism was. And they gave their answer by giving their experiences. And what their experiences showed, this is the second part, was that they had no language for their experiences when they first encountered what they indicated were color lines.
Pardon me.
They knew there were lines that they didn't cross.
In your mind, is racism a concrete, definable thing, or is it sort of this gray blobbish that can change from situation to situation?
It's a concrete, definable thing. It was constructed over hundreds of years in America. What is that diffuse thing you're talking about is how people see it. America determined that that a color group meant you were a different race and somehow a little bit different species. That the normative person that was determined to be the real Americans, the right people to inherit America, were white. And they did this by using science and religion. At first, it was done to explain why there were people working for free to build the economy that were owned and bought and sold. But it got out of hand, and then they started to continue it even after the end of that business of slavery was made illegal. It continued because by then, white people had determined that these were not people that were supposed to live among them. And so they felt put upon when the system ended, and these people who have been told are not quite people are still here. So America has done nothing to end the grouping of races. And as long as we group people by color, then we're going to have these problems. And we act as if that can't end.
If I ask you to, could you write a definition of racism? Because you just gave me a 2-minute definition of racism. Could you write it down in one simple sentence?
Racism is individual prejudice backed by institutional power.
Tonight, we're going to be talking about white privilege. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.